It's a duel in the desert, and that is what everyone hoped to see here today. 125 laps around a track no bigger than 1.6 kilometers. It is a very small, very technical challenge. This is Phoenix, and this is the International Raceway, ISM Speedway, whichever way you want to put it. I'm Jake Sperry here, bringing you action today of some IndyCars here with Crest Autosport, hoping to take you around a beautiful, beautiful circuit. Track temperatures are going to be very interesting out there today as we have a look. It's 32 degrees, air temp 48 degrees, track temperature. It's going to be a very, very dry and hot circuit, so expect this race to come down to who can manage their tyres around a very tyre-wearing circuit out there. We're about 9 minutes away from the start of qualifying at this point in time. That will last for 5 minutes, and they will have 2 laps to put each other into perspective there before they will get 5 minutes of warm-up to fine-tune their machines, and then finally get themselves the opportunities to go out there and challenge this really, really strong circuit. So we'll see how that will all play out in the long and the short, but I'm sure you all want to know what happened last time out. It was Alex Everitt who picked up the victory overall, leading through Thijs Barendregt there, and Jeremy Pronk in third position. So Barendregt second there. Andy Scott managed to pick up fourth position, with fifth position going to Ollie Peters. Then it was Alexander Rogenbach, Fran Herrera, Jürgen Madsby Pedersen, and Shane Bliss, the 9, who took to racing at that point in time. There are 2 drop rounds in this series, so they have to be alert to how they manage their battles here in this IndyCar Oval Series, and everyone knows and understands that there is a long, long way to go just yet, and a technical circuit like this will be great on the calendar if you can pick it up. But there are, of course, those guarantees that are needed. There is Thijs out there on circuit, Thijs Barendregt, who does have the brand new livery on his car in comparison to last week. And I have to say, it is rather enjoyable seeing the number 2 out there on track and giving everything that they possibly can to showcase just how strong of a drive it may potentially be today, as is tradition here with a series like this. Around a small track like this, there is a lot of technicalness that comes to racing like this. We just see around going Ollie Peters there. 121 car's been struggling to find the right level. That was a spin out of the pits. But it's going to be an interesting day today, seeing who is going to be where, who's going to find what element of pace as the Quantum Racing car of Andy Scott makes its way through turns 1 and 2. The key is going to be how you manage that slowing down process. It's a track where you are dropping anywhere to the element of 50 Ks through a corner, trying to make sure you're there. You might be doing a lot of gear changing through this one. It's going to be all about that tyre management and how you manage the outside tyres as well as those inside ones as they go through. There's a little perspective to see where drivers are going to be out there on track. Andy Scott currently is 8th position as we focus, and also making some good progress around out on track. So there is always that focus that we see as everyone looks to get themselves geared up. Shane Bliss currently second fastest of the drivers in practice, 21.421, but overall pace in practice sometimes can be a myth as drivers work on either their race set, their quali set, how they're going to go around and deal with things today. Those are a little bit newer who are here for the first time. The understanding is going to be about how patient you are. There is a caution in the last 5 laps, then the race will be called from that point onwards as complete, as they will run laps behind the pace car. They do have the 1 fast repair in the back pocket, so they'll be hoping that that certainly helps them on their way around this technical circuit out there on circuit. So there is the schedule of where we are at this moment in time. Round 2, of course, at Phoenix. We started off at Homestead, Miami. Our road goes all the way to Chicagoland for round 12 overall. Of course, next time we will come to you will be at the Auto Club circuit over in California, which will be a treat to have a long circuit with abilities to make a lot of passing out there. But Phoenix, a much different challenge out here today compared to some other circuits on the calendar, and definitely worth an eye out as drivers look to understand where they will need to be. So with that mindset, we have ourselves a couple more drivers jumping in the later stages to get themselves into play. 10 drivers now we're up to. Fran Herrera and Will Brinkley jumping in, it seems, to give themselves an opportunity at a victory here today. And for the 10-car field, anything is very much possible over the course of 125 laps. And we just see Ollie Peters there tagging the wall, coming out there of turn 2 and through the dogleg out there on circuit. So very easily it can go wrong here if you are pushing. And these hot conditions are not going to be helping them get through the corners. They're going to be understeering a lot. They're really going to have to be patient on the throttle in these conditions. And that wind from the northwest at about 10 kph certainly isn't going to be helping. It's a constant wind out there on top of it as well. So that is certainly not making life too easy for people here today. But at least for the moment, the likes of Shane Bliss is going to be hoping for some good times. New driver as well into the series is Dave Steadman in the number 74 car. He's down on the pit road as things stand, and a nice little emoji there to go along with. He's going to be very, very interested in picking up a good start, seeing as he has one less drop round to use compared to everyone else, but fastest in practice at the moment. Even though I did say a little bit earlier on that it didn't really mean too much, it will mean a little bit, knowing that, yes, you've got the fastest pace in practice. You are the yardstick after practice to go and beat, and especially in the form of qualifying that they have, that 5-minute qualifying coming up in about 2 minutes and 40 seconds time. It's going to be very much a case of how do you manage that early stage of qualifying, put yourself in the best possible position, go out there to attack and not have to do too much work through the race, as we have seen over the course of these efforts just how difficult this is. It is worth noting on top of that we are running the legacy circuit in comparison to the overall circuit. That is the more recent one on the iRacing service. Part of that is down to the fact that the legacy circuit is iRacing free content out there at the moment, so anyone who wants to can indeed find what they want out of that. But as we go on board and take a little look here at Shane Bliss going through the big left-hander, you can see 147 miles an hour there before putting the power on through the dogleg and then gearing up for 3 and 4 out on track through this section. A little bit more of an easier corner, less tight 3 and 4 is, so it really gives you that slingshot momentum into the main place to get it done today, which is into turn number 1. And we will be seeing that a lot over the course of the race. But what we are going to be seeing is maybe that element of opportunity. And it's an opportunity that I'm sure everyone is going to be wanting to be taking out there on circuit today. And they will be hoping beyond many hopes that they put themselves in the best possible position, get themselves the results that they need, start off their season correctly. And we've been talking about patience. We've been talking about that need to try and get the right result together on the board. Well, if there's any time to get it sorted, Dave Steadman has just found a bit more time. And whatever he's got underneath the bonnet, so to speak, he'll be very happy because he's just done a 21.103 out there, getting the best out of the fixed setup today, and is 0.3 faster than anybody else. And just as we say that, he tags the wall going out of 4, and just like that we'll pull it off to the infield and call it that. There is Everitt, your championship leader as things stand. Not necessarily had the best practices or best qualifying so far this season. He won the race in race number 1 of the championship from 4th position overall, so definitely had an element to go out there to make something happen. But as is tradition here with this ISM Speedway, we were saying, 1, as practice comes to an end, this track is free iRacing content, and 2, it also means that drivers can't get aggressive down onto the apron and take advantage of that because of all of the grass there on the outside. So That is always something to keep in mind. We are going to be moving over now towards qualifying and see where everyone's going to stack up, and they can see all the cars in the infield for what is on the iRacing service now part of the Rallycross setup there at ISM, and will always be very, very strong. So a few drivers now going to be taking their calls to go out onto circuit. Alex Everitt wants to get his lap times out and away quickly. No time to stress, no time to wait. In sim time is going to be just about 20 to 4. So this track is going to cool as things go. But let's gear it up then. Second lap's expected to be quicker than the first lap. Going through this left, trying to gear up this run, get nice and wide through the opening section as we take a look from on top. As we dive through to 3 and 4 once again. Everitt's going to try and be as strong as possible here to gear up this lap. And we'll see what he's going to do. Have a little bit of a wiggle there, trying to get it sorted. So already down a couple tenths of a second there and running right up against the apron, trying to maximise this lap because there are no more laps left. If it goes along after this, Ollie Peters also out there on track looking for a big lap. And now here is the charge to the line. 21.3 on at the moment for Everitt. And then crossing the line, there's a 21.315. So the lap wasn't there. Ollie Peters suddenly finding a bit of pace. So he is a 21.117. There is Thijs Barendregt, their 4th position right now, hoping to find something out of these hot conditions, taking a big line through the final section of a late apex there down onto the bottom of the race circuit and back then for the charge, and only a 338 there, which is only good enough for 4th fastest. Alexander Rogenbach going to P5 with his 2 laps out there on the board. So at least for the moment, the calm is there. Shane Bliss on a 21.886. That first lap not ideal in the circumstances, but as current, here's Ollie Peters, who will have himself the pole from Dave Steadman, and Alex Everitt, the championship leader, in 3rd. Shane Bliss moving up then to 6th fastest, 21.393 with that attempt. Andy Scott and Fran Herrera are the 2 who have yet to go. Will Brinkley not in session as things stand at the moment. Ollie Peters deciding that he wants to take the infield at this point in time. So he's giving himself a little bit of a sighting around, seeing some of the fans. Hopefully he doesn't run over a couple of those virtual fans as he goes around here through the big right-hander as he goes into the grass. And, oh, I think he's going to clatter everyone. Yep, he's going to clatter everyone. Shane Bliss then is okay at this stage. He's just going to dive down into the pits. Fran Herrera, I think, is just about ready to gear up for a flying lap at this moment in time. So hopefully he is going to be all sorted out soon. But he is just going to stay patient because he knows he's got about a minute 50 seconds to get himself going. He'll want to try and get out with about a minute to go to feel, or a minute and a half to go to feel comfortable. If not, then he will not be going any further than he is at this stage in time. But there he goes. And Fran will have the circuit all to himself. He waited for everyone to set their benchmarks. And car number 4, the Spaniard, will be certainly hoping for a good run. And will be trying to maximise as much as possible going through the big left-hander of 4. Well, they're all left-handers here on the circuit, funnily enough. But it is the larger of the 2 left-handers out there on track compared to this tight opening foray here through 1 and 2. And going through 4th gear out there, you can see on the Cosworth wheel up to 5th through the dog leg, and then going down in through the left, flicking down a gear into 4th. This is going to be an interesting one. See when you flick through the gear as well, and how much you want to use engine braking to your advantage. 21.7 opening lap, needs to find and gear up a little bit more on the power once again. The second lap will count. You've got to be very careful that you don't brush up against the wall. It will invalidate the lap time to iRacing's off-track instant point system out there, which is universal for all modes of racing. And over the line, 21.455, so good enough to jump ahead of Jürgen Pedersen there. And Fran Herrera goes 7th fastest with that attempt, the final attempt out there on track. So let's get a little bit of an eye out then and see how qualifying ended up. Ollie Peters in the 1-2-1 then will be on the pole position for this race, with Dave Steadman in second and Alex Everitt in third position. It's Thijs Barendregt there in fourth position, with Alexander Rogenbach in fifth and Shane Bliss in sixth. Following that is Fran Herrera, Jürgen Madsby Pedersen, Will Brinkley, by measure of being behind on iRacing, will start behind Andy Scott, who is ninth position overall. 10 to the dance today at Phoenix, and they'll be hoping for a strong result out there as the final checks will be done in their warm-up. They can't really adjust too much, but they can adjust the in-car tools that they have here in these Dallara IR18s, which is the ARB and the weight jacker over the course of it. I know Ollie Peters was looking at that weight jacker saying, well, I need to do something. I'm scared that the car's going to throw me off at every single opportunity out there on track. So I'm sure that there's going to be an element of anticipation, an element of hope as well, that this race is going to come down to a margin which is, I can break away at this stage. They can see the qualifying results up on the screen. One driver choosing not to set a lap time overall there, of course, being Andy Scott. And the challenge is going to be, from the back in position number 9, how do you manage your way through the field and pick them off one at a time to get the result that is very much needed. Once we go over to that race server, of course, they will have 2 minutes to get themselves gridded up before they start pacing around here, this Phoenix International Raceway, as it was known at the time of its build, and will be certainly a very interesting battle here in the desert of Arizona. Of course, home to the Cardinals, and it's going to be very, very fun to see how all of these drivers manage to bring everything together today. The track as well is going to be very interesting to deal with. All of the practice, the qualifying, and the warm-up has a track usage on 10%, but the race track usage is going to be carried over from the warm-up. So any running that is done here in these 5 minutes of warm-up is going to advance that track state, is going to rubber in using iRacing's dynamic track system. And what is going to be crucial about that is they are going to be nicely set up and situated for the way this race is going to go. And as that track rubbers in certain areas on the circuit, lines are going to develop that are maybe better or maybe worse out there on track. So it's always going to be a balancing act of finding the grip out on circuit, which iRacing does probably better than anything else in the world today in terms of sim racing. So that's a little bit of a something that they can manage, and I'm sure Ollie Peters will be a little bit surprised to find the fastest time overall, finding that it all works out. But of course, these drivers will be looking at qualifying sets and race sets and going, well, if we're racing on a certain set, we need to understand how that is going to be playing out and working. Some drivers liking that more than others, but 125 laps is a long time. We're expecting 2 stops today around this very difficult circuit. It might be a bit more, depending on the tyre life. I know I was talking with Alex Everitt earlier on, and he was saying, well, we're going about 10 laps and we're seeing about a fifth of the tyre go. So they might be right down to bare bones by the time they decide they want to make their stops today. And that tyre life is definitely going to be a factor when understeering is going to be pretty much king today at the Phoenix International Raceway. So we may just see how they go. On with Shane Bliss at the moment, who is just bringing that car down to a gentle repose, I would say, at this point in time, as he wants to just make sure that the final checks on the machine are all okay. Just a handful of drivers out there on circuit giving themselves their final opportunity before racing is going to bring itself into play. IndyCar is very much like no other racing series out there, and I'm sure that the Crest Autosport teams will all be wanting, and the Crest Autosport drivers will all be wanting a strong result, as will all the drivers here today want a strong result. There is Fran Herrera in the number 4, going through 3 and 4 out there on circuit, riding around looking for as much of an attack of the exit and just understanding where the extremities of the limits are. And of course, these cars on the iRacing new damage model system, if they do find themselves in trouble, it will be big how they find themselves in trouble. and it will not be pretty how they find themselves in trouble as well. So that is always going to be a really good option as they go through. But let's bring ourselves then over towards the grid and get a little bit of an understanding of where everyone is going to be stacking up. For those who are just jumping in for the first time or have been here for a little while, we're now going to move over into where we need to be for this. So it is Ollie Peters, of course, we did say, on that pole position. Dave Stedman on the inside of the front row with, the outside with Alex Everitt and Thijs Barendregt in 4th position. Alexander Rogenbach will go from 5th. Shane Bliss then from 6th. Fran Herrera is 7th. 8th for Jürgen Mansby Pedersen, and Andy Scott starting in 9th. We haven't seen Will Brinkley really do anything out there. We don't expect him to go and race. He is not in the server as things stand, so he will not be racing out there today. So, 9 cars then, 125 laps. They will also be time limited today in this race to 1 hour and 50 minutes. And if the race should go that long, then I would say it would be a minor miracle that we'd have cars finishing today. But it's definitely going to be an interesting showcase, and these drivers know and understand that this is going to be an important battle with all 9 out there on track. The iRacing, I believe it's the iRacing sedan that is out there on circuit at the moment, and it is the iRacing sedan that will be taking them around the circuit. It is a nondescript iRacing sedan safety car, so there is no branding on it. If you look at the badge on the front, it is the iRacing logo there underneath the iRacing logo. So figure that out as much as you will, but the iRacing sedan is out there on track, leading them around, and just looking at the lights, they are off on top of the sedan, which does indicate that we should be going green this time around, as they all look to set themselves up and figure where they need to be. It's an important point in time, and of course the Apex Tracks crew as well has done a wonderful job. Keep an eye out on them and support them as much as you can, but these drivers know, especially with that beautiful livery there of Ollie Peters, that they've got a race on their hands. 125 laps then here from Phoenix International Raceway under the control of Ollie Peters. There's the green flag, and there is the get-go. Little slow on the uptake there was Dave Stedman. He falls immediately back, 3rd into line as they go through, and a bit of patience shown by Alexander Rogenbach, who was really, really cautious back in 6th position and has met everyone else going away. Stedman's going to look low side, trying to get that position back from Everitt, but not going to find too much in the early going there of the opening lap, and Peters in the wall immediately. Peters throws it into the wall immediately. We are staying green for the moment, and there comes the caution. Ollie Peters 1 lap around from the race lead, struggling with the car, and puts it in the barriers. Does have one fast repair. We are going to take ourselves to a replay. We just missed the back end of it, but the key is, I think he scared himself through that final section of track. The back just completely taken away as he was trying to avoid the wall. But for Alex Everitt, that's exactly what he wanted, up to the race lead, but at the expense of his teammate. And we are under caution for the first time then in this one. No ideals then in the early goings for drivers to figure out pit stops at this stage. They'll be calm, they'll be confident then. And there is Thijs Barendregt in 2nd position, really profiteered off of the start. Stedman into 3rd, Bliss now 4th. Fran Herrera is 5th, and Alexander Rogenbach in 6th position. Then it's Jürgen Mansby Pedersen and Andy Scott, who did not set a time in qualifying, out there at the back in 8th position, and looking to go through with a good, strong opportunity. Good news for Ollie Peters is he does have the fast repair, but he's got to wait for the tow truck to get himself back before he can take that. So he's not out of the race just yet, but he will have that chance to get back out and try more than just 1 lap around this place. And that's why we say here in sim racing that you cannot win the race on the first lap, but my goodness, can you lose it over the course of the first lap? And that was very much a case of Ollie Peters nearly losing it, and he is going to be laps down now in this race, so it will be a long road back. He will have to make up the laps manually because there is no lucky dog system here in this series, so there is nothing that they can really do or muster or manage around it at this point in time. But the Phoenix International Raceway, I'm sure, is going to put up some interesting battles the longer that the racing is going to go on. But Ollie Peters immediately finding himself in a bit of trouble here today as we set up behind the pace car once again. This is a good opportunity for drivers to change their fuel maps, though, as they are under pacing. You expect them to go from fuel map 1, which is their all-out attack fuel map, down into fuel map 8, which allows them to get a little bit of an extension of how long they can go on the tank. But I think they're going to be maybe a little bit more tyre limited than they are going to be tank limited here today as they try and make that challenge. Their tanks, no restrictions on them. They remain 100% out there. The setup is going to be a very interesting one, and it's also worth noting that they are unlimited in terms of their tyre set today. So they have got to make sure that they are very, very alert to what the tyres are doing. They can go in as many times as they want for a new set of boots, and that new set of boots becomes so crucial later as you go. But lap 5 will be moving on to lap 6 shortly. The lights are off of the iRacing sedan pace car. We will be going green this time by. And Ollie Peters is back out there on track, but he's now classified as 2 laps down. Pace with Alex Everitt. He's high because you can only pass on the high side on restarts here in iRacing. And there is the green flag. And we are back underway once again. And there is that adage, of course, of cautions breed cautions, but there's also the cycle of tyres and how they figure. A little bit of a move in the back of the field right now as Pedersen trying to look low on Rogenbach for place. Is not going to quite find it at the moment, but a nice clean get-go here at Phoenix. They travel on through 3 and 4 and onto the front stretch in the immediacy. Fran Herrera and Shane Bliss close together at 3rd and 4th. We look at Dave Steadman here in 2nd position, trying to figure out as much as possible then in the early goings. Ollie Peters back down into the pits then as his troubles just continue to go on, and it might have been a passing under the line. There's a penalty potentially there for Ollie, but Steadman really looking on the back of Barendregt for this place, and Thijs is going to have to look behind a bit here, make sure that he's covering off those moves as and when they go. This is the sort of track where you need 2 or 3 laps to really set up an overtake and set up a pass, and the longer it takes, the more that drivers are going to break out of range here today at Phoenix. So keep an eye out here on this as they continue their challenges. The front 3, and then it's following the likes of Fran Herrera and co. A little look low from Dave Steadman, but it is just that, only a look at this moment in time, so that's not ideal. There is Fran Herrera, who has done well to get up into that 4th position. 21.6 that last time by was the quickest of them all, and this was the move that got him up into that 4th position past Shane Bliss, and that was a quick and simple pass going through 3 and 4. So his eyes there, Fran Herrera, is to find the 2 in front as their challenge in the race continues onward at this point in time as they search for the look through the left of 3 and 4. You're going to see a few drivers just glancing off against the apron there under the yellow line, try and get as much of a run as possible, and that run very nearly paying off for Dave Steadman, 74. Just trying to angle for that attack coming out of 4, and ultimately did not work out there today in the way that it was quite intended at this point in time. A few drivers dropping a bit of pace out there. I am a little bit cause of concern for some drivers glancing the wall, and it looks like Jürgen Pedersen is diving into the pits. It looks like he had a moment with the wall out there on track, so he is deciding he's going to come in then at the end of lap 12 to make a green flag pit stop and put him out of cycle with everybody else there. But Still a long way to go. On lap 14 here of 1:25. Some good green flag running at this stage as we are on board with Dave Steadman, going through 3 and 4 once again, and he's going to be patient here. This isn't going to be a move that is won easily. He can just sit, he can watch. He knows this race could come back to him late on if he knows how he's playing his card right. Thijs really drifting up the circuit there, washing out, and that's going to only allow Steadman get himself a little bit closer as he looks low side, trying to see if there is anything there, and at least for the moment there is not. Maybe a chance here. It's defended low by Barendregt, and Thijs Barendregt is very much looking in the mirrors again. He washes up a bit more. He needs to maybe get a bit more of an adjustment to get some more turn in the car, because he is sliding up that circuit a little bit and is hemorrhaging a bit of time. So Barendregt doing enough at the moment to hold, but Steadman knows that it's a long race. Don't want to lose all of it too early in the statements that we have going on. Alex Everitt in control at the front of this field. It's an interesting gap back. It's about 2.2 to Fran Herrera in 4th. Shane Bliss staying at about 1.1 seconds back, and then a good 2 seconds back of that is Alexander Rogenbach. They have spread themselves out early here in this race. I'm sure Alexander Rogenbach will want to get himself into prime viewing position to capitalise on other drivers' mistakes out there as and when they happen at this point in time. They have ourselves about 107 laps to go here at Phoenix, and it is a clear as day margin that we are seeing at this point in time. Herrera's pace has dropped from the attacking it was going forward. Those 21.6s, they've already fallen 22.3s, and that tyre drop-off is going to be crucial if we are in a late stage of the race and tyres become a factor, because we are seeing already in terms of their running, and they have done a heat-up cycle on the tyres, that in the space of 10 laps, they've dropped about 0.6 of a second, half a second to 0.6. So that is going to be a little bit of a course concern for drivers out there who want to consistently reheat those tyres. 0.6 of a second goes a very long way to making moves late on in a race like this. So it might just be down to who can make the right decision at the right time with these tactical chess games that we see being done at 270, 280 kilometers an hour here today at Phoenix International Raceway. But it is starting to be shown in this battle that Dave Steadman is falling off a little bit now from Thijs Barendregt. Half a second the gap, nothing to be too concerned about, but it's definitely not aggressive and in your face, and why not in a day where tyres need to be saved? The last thing you want to be doing is staying close on tyres. Battle is closing though in the fight for 5th position, because Shane Bliss is falling a little bit backwards into the clutches of Alexander Rogenbach, who on that last lap did a 22.6 in comparison to Shane Bliss's 22.5, so he has responded a 10th, but the gap is 1.4 seconds out there on circuit. So fine margins need even finer solutions, it does seem, out there at this point in time. There is Barendregt once more, really trying to keep that high line a little bit more cleaner out there. One of the few drivers who's going to it and trying to get that rubbered in maybe slightly. A little bit of a less guarantee to go down onto the apron to really make any inroads or opportunities happen. But they're digging in, settling into the rhythm, and they're going to be awkward here in this situation, because Ollie Peters might want to try and make a way back through. He seems quite comfortable now as they reach the mid-stage. We'll go on board and see what it's like for lap traffic to try and figure out a way to get past cars that are ahead of them by 5 laps out there on the circuit. Pedersen, by the way, is back out there and running, but 2 laps down at this moment in time. So a lot of work to do to gain those 2 laps back if possible. But again, all that patience here. No reasons to be concerned or worried at this early goings, but Alex Everitt now clear to the tune of 2.5 seconds in this race right now, and it's still a fairly long and intensive way to go out there in this race. So The battle still remains second and third. It's been the closest battle on track for the longest time here in this race. About half a second it's remained all the way around at this point in time. Car number 74 making his debut here today, and Dave Steadman knows that with one less drop round he'll be starting on the back foot in comparison to some of the other drivers that he is with, and he would very much love in a race like this to just relax, let the race come to him potentially, and those opportunities could be few and far between at this point in time. Bliss, by the way, is still having to deal with Alexander Rogenbach, and that gap for the first time creeps to 1.2 seconds. So Rogenbach slowly working his way into the race, finding some strong results out there, and would absolutely love to continue on this cautious pace to charge forward and find exactly what is necessary out there on circuit to get what is needed. So it's all in the balance, fluctuating around 1.2, 1.3, but Steadman again has now had himself a bit of a moment, and that is a moment of that is Peters going through. And the issue here for Dave Steadman is that he got himself on the outside and said, you know what, I don't want to really deal with lap traffic here today, I'm just going to let you go. And now he's got work to do to stay with that lap traffic, as he's going to try and use Ollie Peters to get back onto the rear of Thijs Barendregt, and if possible follow him on through, steal a position out there on circuit. Andy Scott has now gone one lap down to Alex Everitt, who picked that up on the exit of 2. So they're going to dig, and they're going to dig deep. Lap 32 of 125, and they'll start thinking about their pit stop cycles in the not too distant future, and some drivers may be going off kilter with their strategy, and strategy is going to be really important in terms of how they pit here today. Of course, they know that it is a very quick lap. They are going to drop a lap as they go to their pit stops, and if they do drop their lap, then that is going to be quite interesting if and when a caution does come out, or if it indeed does come out, because there is no guarantee that they will get a caution from this point onwards. But Steadman trying to keep himself into place. So too is Rogenbach, who has got that gap down under a second for the first time, but is immediately being harried around a little bit out on track there by Jürgen Pedersen, who will want to try and let that position go back through, if that is a possibility at this moment in time. And Thijs Barendregt right now in a really awkward position as the lap traffic tries to make its way back around. Will go heavy to the high side, not rubbered in, will go on board as we see that that driving out process. There are marbles that form in the iRacing service as well, so you do get that sense that grip's going to go away, and just as that move gets done, you look behind and back in range again is Dave Steadman. So Steadman's quietly bringing himself into this. Doesn't want to do anything too rash or untoward here on lap 37 of 125. So there is still a long, long way to go to figure out whether the result is going to be favourable or unfavourable for certain drivers out there through the big left once again as we go on board with Dave Steadman. Taking a little look there behind as he tries to work out what's the best way to get past one Mr. Barendregt on the circuit. He thinks about low, but again, it's all about that drive off the exit. That higher line allows you that ability to attack off the exit, give you that attack going towards turn number 2, and a very crucial bit of battling is then applied as they try and work out where they need to go. Still though, can be a long way to close down the gaps that are very much needed at this point in time. As we take a little look from the driver's eye perspective, they can see the defensive shield out there on the windscreen as they block all of the things, and safety innovations improve more and more in the racing and sim racing realm. Going through the big left 3 and 4, gear up for another lap 10 out there on track. It is worth keeping an eye out on those times, and they're now a second slower than the times that they were doing before. So we really are seeing that drop off. Heavy, hot conditions are known for making that happen. And again, it's a little bit of a close look from Dave Steadman, but he's got to dig here if he wants to get that pass, and track position is going to be key when they want to decide to dive down into the pit. It's not as easy as just let off and go on in. But be careful about the car behind, the car in front, who's around you, who's on the lane in front of you. And especially with the speeds that they're going, they don't want to be stuck in a pitting cycle either out there on track. So Rogenbach goes a lap down, and he's now in a big race because he's got Andy Scott digging to the inside, and it's going to be for position here. And just behind Alex Everitt, the pass is scored complete. So up goes Andy Scott now into 6th place with that overtake, and a fundamental one as well. As we take a little look on the replay, this is how it managed to be concocted. Straight through on the inside. That's just a case, really, of Andy Scott managing his tyres and Alexander Rogenbach being a heck of a lot more aggressive on his turn-ins in comparison. This is a tyre save race. Again, a little look then. Low side from Dave Steadman, but he cannot procure the position. Tries to open it up. It's not going to happen just yet. So we're about a third of the way through this race just gone. Alex Everitt, your race leader, through 18 minutes and 31 seconds of action. 4.3 seconds to the good on Thijs Barendregt, with Dave Steadman in 3rd position. Fran Herrera has had a quiet race so far. He's just getting on with it in 4th place, and traffic now really becoming a key factor. Barendregt and Steadman both to lap Rogenbach out there on the circuit. So that is certainly in the issues right now. Shane Bliss goes a lap down now on top of everything as well. He's digging now with Andy Scott, who's really coming into his own right now with the way that he is managing the tyres. Almost as if there is nowhere at all that Andy Scott is dealing with. He's just being nice and smooth. Look at that wheel input as he goes through. He's not making over excessive corrections with the car. He's got it balanced down to a T. He picks up another one there. That is Shane Bliss, who loses out that position. Next up on the chase, it'll be a long chase to Fran Herrera. 22.9 that time from Scott, as Alex Everitt now puts Jürgen Madsby Pedersen a lap down again. 3 laps down in this race. But Herrera matching the times of Andy Scott at this stage in time. Barendregt and Steadman going to be jumping soon into the fray, which will be a very interesting little look as they continue. So shouldn't be too far away now from drivers considering green flag pit stops in this race. They know that they have the fuel to keep their eyes on as well, and it could definitely be a crucial matter of fact for later on that this race goes. So every little bit of everything they can find is going to be massive here. Dave Steadman has just been staring at the back and finally gets his chance here low, but again, high side on the exit, use the banking to drop down the hill slightly. There isn't really that much here at ISM, but there's enough there that's just making it difficult for Steadman to really open it up. Barendregt is just doing the right things, placing the car in the right places, so that when opportunities do come into play, there will be those small changes that we see. Lap 2 of 1 at 25. These two drivers go on to at this moment. So what can Steadman figure out in terms of this move? Knows that this is going to be a long race to find the right attack out there on circuit. But at least, hey, for the time being, he can just be quiet, save some fuel. Doesn't have to be too aggressive out there, just knowing what he's doing. Again, Barendrekt just loving to run up the hill. They'll run up the banking, and even a look wide there from Steadman, who has to get really out of it there as he was squirreling through the corner. Took 2 bites to get it turned in because I think he was trying to go for the inside and the door was shut firmly there by Barendrekt. There's not much that Stedman can do to argue against that sort of moment. And again, finding that move. This time he gets the line he wants. He will go high side and he will breeze around. So I think Barendregt here is deciding, you know what? Oh, he's really struggling here. I was wondering if he was actually going to go to the pit with that sort of line. Just having a look here at, as we get a replay here to see exactly where it went wrong. I think he was trying it and then realised I'm not going to get that slowed in time. So that's what's happening for him. He's now dropped back a little bit here in terms of that time, and it's right in front of the traffic as well. Remember, Peters, Madsby, Pedersen and Scott are all there, and Ollie Peters has fresher tyres than everyone else, so we'll be able to run on through, deal with that as and when it needs to. But they are catching traffic here. Looks like we might be converting towards a one-stop if things continue. Half distances, lap 62, lap 63. So I reckon we are going to be in one-stop territory here for this race, and that will be one green flag stop. As it'll be very interesting. A safety car would certainly shake things up right now, as Thijs Barendregt tries to hang around with Dave Stedman in the battle for second and third position in this race as it goes. Still though, you do wonder whether this is going to be a case of who plays chicken first. Lap 58, I don't think anyone wants to be caught out here by the safety car. They want to leave it as late as they possibly can. Tyres that will let go if they continue to play for too long, and we can keep an eye on Ollie's lap in comparison to see how quick he's going. He did a 22.6. Leader also did a 22.6. Barendregt 22.6. Stedman 22.6. Andy Scott consistently right now being the fastest driver on track, 22.4 over that last run. He's a lap down at this stage, and he hasn't needed to come in. We do have our first taker though in for green flag pit stops. It is Shane Bliss who's deciding it is his time to get down into the pit, get exactly what he wants out of his stop, and I'm sure that he can be quite happy with the fact that he's got a good run. The tyres did fall away from him quite a bit though in his run. They go all the way through turn one, looking for their box, but they are all absolutely going for it. In comes Fran Herrera now to make his stop from fourth position. So he feels that the tyres have reached a limit out there on circuit. So he will take a green flag pit stop on top of it as well. Shane Bliss is going to come out then just behind Andy Scott, and with Ollie Peters as well on track. So always an option. Rogenbach lets it go at this stage. Long road back to Dave Stedman in second, and in comes Barendregt then from third position. Now, how much of an advantage is he going to get by undercutting his opponents? He's doing a 22.8 that last time by. That was about 1.5 seconds off the back of Dave Stedman, who I think has to react here at this stage and make the call to dive in on lap 63. It's worth noting that they allowed themselves 5 extra laps on the tyres because of how aggressive they were going, but the front two deciding they want to stay it out a bit longer in terms of where they're going, but it looks like they're trying as much as they can, get as much as they can. There is Dave Stedman trying to get as much as possible out of this. So I think they're waiting for the crash if it does come along, and in comes Dave Stedman now from second. He couldn't wait much longer. Barendrecht's back out there and is going to be absolutely motoring around those 2 laps. So will Dave Stedman be able to get the car up to speed and stay ahead? 1 lap now the difference between himself and Barendregt, or it's 2 laps now. So that will continue to be checked down as they go. Stedman looking for his box, the penultimate box out there, nice and calm. They'll get the wheels on and turning as Alex Everitt remains out in front with a healthy and sizable margin at this point in time. Out comes Stedman, and there is Barendregt. He has just breezed on by. So Thijs Barendregt with the 2 laps on the tyres has completely thrown Stedman in trouble And if it continues at this rate with Alex Everitt right now still out there and still going, he might be in a stage of issues where he might fall behind those two in second and third place if he's not careful. Ruggenbuck is in then as they go lap 68. And I think this is a case of Alex Everitt. You're out there on your own. You've got a lap on the field. Now would be a good time to make the call. Dive down in and make it happen. And he will do here on lap 68 of 1:25. Providing there are no more cautions, there are no more needs to go into the pits and get a stop. Andy Scott now, who is going to be one of the last drivers out there, hasn't necessarily come in and got anything sorted. So he's going to be interesting to worth figuring how long that he wants to go as he pilots around and continues on that charge. There is Barendregt at this stage, working his way through 3 and 4. How long's Everitt going to be staying stationary? He comes off of the jacks right now. Barendregt crossing the start-finish line right now. And I think Everitt just has this covered as Barendregt will see that he's close, but he's not close enough to Everitt here, the championship leader, who is about to go 2 from 2 if he can keep it out of trouble. If he goes, because he's got a major tyre advantage in comparison to everybody else out there at this stage. Pedersen is really slow here. Coming out then, he's made another stop, and he gets himself, or tries to find himself, up to speed once again. But it has been a really calm run. Nobody's put themselves in trouble over the course of their stint. Ollie Peters now effectively ahead of Jürgen Pedersen, but he will be due to come in again as he understeers heavily wide. But yeah, it's going to be all about calm. We know that Barendrecht's tyres are going to go off quite heavily towards the end. That will favour the driver in third position there, Dave Stedman. Fran Herrera now effectively a lap down in this race, but Andy Scott still going at the front, lap 72. He wants some laps led here, give himself some time up front, and he knows better than anybody else that if he can just keep it calm, he'll be doing all the right things at this point, and just running his own race. And I think at the rate that he will be overtaken, it will be a cause for concern. Alex Everitt, by the way, is running 1.1 seconds a lap faster around this 22-second course. So he finally does, Andy Scott, dive down onto the apron. That will give Alex Everitt and co the lead. And the race shall go on as normal, as pit stops have concluded here at this International Speedway, or this International Raceway here of Phoenix. So 1.9 seconds the gap between Everitt and Barendregt, and a lot of traffic for Alex Everitt here, your leader, as they go through, and I'm sure that they will have to be very much concerned that this is not going to be the best possible place. Coordination very much there for one Mr. Ollie Peters, who lets everybody go around. Fran Herrera is next for the lap, going through the big left, 3 and 4. And the search continues then on lap 74 onto lap 75. At the end of this lap, we will have 50 laps to go here at Phoenix in a race which has been pretty much dominated from the front. Now, keep an eye here on Dave Stedman. He's looked really, really good on the opening of the stint. He has clawed that gap back to Thijs Barendregt to a fantastic margin. And this is the sort of time that you'd look at and go, well, okay, you're hemorrhaging a little bit here, but it's not the end of the world, because the move is going to have to come along. It's going to have to come along swiftly. He's not going to get it done this time. Looking every which way for an opportunity. Just got to make sure he's not scrubbing too much off of the tyres as he sits and waits for that available moment. But a move can be constructed. Fran Herrera is 4th. Andy Scott 5th, and Shane Bliss in 6th. Watch out for Scott late on. We'll have the freshest tyres of anyone and monster on through. But again, Stedman looks. But it is, once again, just that, a look. He's not going to be able to get anything more out of that at this stage, as again, another little high side look doesn't come into play. Oh, big run though, through 2. There's not much there's not much that Barendregt can do. Going to try the high line, which I think is the line of choice now that works. That low line is not working here at Phoenix. And as such, if you want to get the pass done, you're going to have to go the long way around to make it happen, it seems. Thijs Barendregt very nearly opening himself up there to the loss of second position. And it was going to be nearly as quick as a click of the fingers. Still, though, not in guaranteed safety range at this stage at Phoenix. It's been a quiet one here, but these two, they've put on a show, and they will continue to do so here for the remaining 45 laps of this one. They go on to lap 82 of 125, and they know better than anybody else that there's a bit of traffic in front that might be of use to them as they dig low through turns 1 and 2. Figuring out process then to the high side goes Steadman once again, but he's not going to get the look this time around the circuit as they pass the cactus there in the infield and look to battle and attack once again. It's all about patience here. Again, that look high is going to work on the run. I think Steadman's understanding here. High is the way forward. He again digs low looking for it. But once more, Thijs Barendregt covers off the line. If you want to get it done, I think the high line's going to be where it's at. So they've got the traffic to deal with as well in the form of Jürgen Pedersen. It's going to be an important move if they can figure out if this is the right way or the wrong way to get that pass. So again, they look high, and that traffic being very well behaved stays low the entirety of that section, and Steadman right up to the limiter there, between gears 4th and 5th, trying to sort out everything, and a little bit of washing out there coming off of the line that has been rubbered in over the course of the race, and as such troubles as the tyres start to I would say wear away, and they have worn away quite heavily over the course of the race that we have seen. They're all good to the end unless someone finds themselves in trouble in the barriers, and it is just one small misnomer that puts them in that position. It'll be the last place that I'm sure every driver wants to be at this stage. A finish is prioritised, and they're doing a really, really good job of it. You can't help but feel as well, but this track is going to come to these drivers as they go. It started off at 47 degrees, mind you, this circuit. It's now down to 41 degrees as time has ticked away. So the track is definitely coming back to them here, and they will find they're able to extend the life of the tyres a bit longer because of that fact, and keep that pace relatively there on circuit. So nothing too bad to shake a stick at this point in time. But your leader, Alex Everitt, has led the most laps here in this race. It's been a thoroughly professional job from him at this point in time. 35 minutes into this race, 6.5 seconds clear, running low 22s, 22 flats. Barendregt currently on 22.2 and getting a little bit of help from Fran Herrera, who is there in 4th position. But it is just that, some help. Currently only 3 drivers on the leading lap as things go at this point in time. So through the big left of 1 and 2, the tighter of the left, as they try and figure it out. So Barendregt just starting to claw away here, where Steadman, I think, is in a conservation stage. I think he made a real concerted effort to try and use those tyres up to make that move. He might have just taken the life away from them by being that element of aggressive. So you can just get that car back into a calmer period. I think he'll be able to close that gap back up and have another attempt at it to make that space. But out of the way goes Fran Herrera high side. And now the chase continues on. Andy Scott currently in 5th position. Shane Bliss in 6th is now about half a lap to a lap behind. Roggenbach trying to chase that down as well, who is in 7th position. 2-lap gap to Jürgen Madsby Pedersen. Ollie Peters is a lap behind that. So That's the gap. And it's a fairly heavy one out there as Peters is going to look to try and go down to the low side comfortably after his pit stop, jumping ahead of Shane Bliss. So he's getting exactly what he wants at this moment in time. Your leader doing exactly the same, up 2 places in this race today and looking for a heap of some more looks. But again, Dave Steadman closing that gap slowly but surely. A 10th here, a 10th there, a tisket, a tasket, and he's pretty sure he wants it. And they will be adjusting the weight jacket as they need to, and the anti-roll bar, because they know that car is going to respond to them more as the track cools, as the track also brings itself into play. Still, not a guarantee here. They've got themselves 30 laps to go as they cross the line. So we're into the final phase of this race. Barendrecht's tyres, you would expect, will hit a cliff quicker and will go quick because they are 2 laps older than Dave Steadman's. Everitt's got about 5 or 6 laps to the pair of them as into the pits comes Shane Bliss. That is one more stop out there on track, and that will be the last thing that he'll be thinking about. Might have just clattered against the wall out there on the last lap or so. Doesn't look like he's had any issues out there. So this looks to me as if the tyre potentially has just said, you know what, it's not looking brilliant. I'm down on my places. I'm not really going to be dealing with too much. Maybe just the loss of 1 place. Might as well go out there, see what I can get out of it. So that's always an option. Come down in, get some fresh tyres. Go out there and attack. Not a traditional thing that you'd see doing, but definitely something out there has caused that to go. But again, Barendrecht's just holding this. It's about half a second you can see on screen. And as they go through the left of 3 and 4, exit out onto the front stretch, it is once more the waiting game. Dave Steadman, 22.4 compared to 22.3, drops another 10th, and it is just starting to ever so slightly fall away from Dave Steadman, this second position. Barendrecht's trying everything possible to keep himself in play, and he took a couple heavy saws at the wheel there, did Barendrecht, to make sure he got through 3 and 4 cleanly and effectively in that instance. So it is still on, but it is a case of running out of laps. You've got 25 now. Barendregt is doing pretty much everything by the book. Keep it out in front, keep it off the wall, keep it off the apron. Take a nice smooth line, run it out as much as you can, minimal steering input, and you're going to be in a really, really strong position. This is the look then from top view. You can see it's next to nothing he is getting in terms of turn. And as he straightens the car out, it's not much that IR18 is doing that is untowards or wrong at this point in time. And again, he just struggles a little bit, had to go all the way down into 3rd gear there for a moment. And it's showing just how much they're having to work here, flicking down to 4th and maybe even 3rd in a couple of places. We were seeing how it was 4th gear all the way and a high 4th gear. And you'll see it again, go through 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, maybe even 2nd if they're not too careful as this goes on. They are already dropping a little bit of time as they figure out what they need to do. But once more, it is going to be a case of who do they let through. Steadman getting well out of the way. Ollie Peters is on a different strategy and is quicker. So, shotgun chase. There is Shane Bliss, by the way, looking to try and do well at this point. But again, that gap still extending here for Dave Steadman. As there is Shane Bliss, there is Alexander Rogenbach just in front, and a difference between them, an entire lap out on circuit. So this will be an important move here for Shane. He can get through. He's now only got himself 22 seconds to chase down to get back to Alexander Rogenbach again, which, if he's timed it properly and he's a second a lap quicker, which he wasn't over that last lap, he's got a lot to do to get back to him. Once again, I think he'll get about halfway round at current pace. But current pace means nothing when everything can change in the click of a finger. We know that this is a race where it's not all over just yet, but it has been a dominant drive so far at the front. There is second position, Thijs Barendregt. That's the gap back to Dave Steadman, and it's now 1.6 seconds. And we saw this in the opening run of the green flag here. We haven't had a green caution out here since the opening lap of the race when Ollie Peters from the lead put it in the wall. Outside of that, has been a relatively easy race that we have seen as Dave Steadman continues to try and chase down that gap, which is still at around that 1.7 second margin. Another tenth of a second or a fraction there. It just gets lopped off by Steadman, so he's still chasing it down, albeit just not quite in position at this stage. Will be 16 to go when we cross the line next with Alex Everitt. Number 3, Barendregt just still doing enough, but expect those tyres to really be struggling as he makes his way around. Everitt is doing enough here to comfortably walk away on the last drivers to come in, make a stop, and just had everything covered in exactly the right way. Didn't need to be reactionary, was very proactive in choosing when the right pit stop was needed, and has done so to a strong effect here today. Still though, Barendregt has to be cautious about behind, as through now Ollie Peters decides he might want to go, trying to pick it up off of the exit, dictating to the inside that he wants that move. And Barendregt goes incredibly high, giving him the space. Not exactly getting completely dealt with here, as he'll go wide through the dog leg. He's got to be cautious about this, very nearly brushing against the safe barrier there on the outside, and move done then for Ollie Peters. Gets back ahead at this point in time. Gap down though to 1.2 because of that. Dave Steadman knows he's got to keep going here. There is no point in giving this race up just yet. He has still got that chance of second position on debut. Barendregt doing just enough at this point. We've been 45 minutes or so now through this race, and it is not long left to go here as these drivers figure out, okay, final stages, last thing they'll be going, or the first thing or the last thing will be going through their mind. Do not put it in the wall late. Be the last thing that they will do if they are to do so. And Alex Everitt dealing with traffic once again. Jürgen Mansby Pedersen as goes through the left of 3 and 4, trying to figure out what's the right way to get this done. Going to try and look high side. Doesn't have the obligation to let it go, but chances there. Going to go low side. He's going to have a little bit of a squeeze there between himself and Jürgen. They are in the same pool. And Jürgen's still not giving this one up here for Alex Everitt, who is not having everything his own way. And this is the sort of thing that puts your race in jeopardy if you're not careful. When you've been so flawlessly quick all day long, you don't want to start battling with lap traffic. He finally gets it done and moves on through. But that gap is half a second again between Barendregt and Dave Steadman. You wonder in the last 9 laps of this race when they cross the line whether this is going to be a move for second. Barendregt desperately trying to hold on. Alexander Rogenbach is lap traffic just in front. And ultimately, you would say that this lap traffic has just become a bit of a factor. Tried to go low, not going to work for Barendregt. He's going to have to go high side is Thijs. It's going to mean that Steadman gets an easy choice to that outside, but he can't get that car back low again quick enough. So all that time he would have gained, he then puts himself in a similar situation. Half a second still the gap. Flying on through here, knowing that laps are running out, and if Steadman has been coy with the tyres enough, the move is there and is available. 13 seconds off of the race lead. 7 laps to figure it out for these drivers. And there is Alex Everitt by comparison, making his way out of 4th. He is absolutely monstering around this circuit. He's got himself about half a lap in the back pocket and running about 0.4 of a second quicker at this point. Again, Steadman just washing out a little bit wide, trying to find the line. Gap's 0.3 of a second now. He's going to get it. He's got to manufacture it now. Barendregt just running the line that he needs to. Steadman has been patient all race long. And now he's got to be patient again. We'll have 5 laps to find it. Barendregt has responded magnificently on those older tyres. Was a 10th quicker that time by. As he really struggles with turn. Steadman all the way out. Trying to get as much track as he can. Use all the road tax, why don't you? They don't build this circuit to not have you drive there, some would say. But at least for now, I think Steadman's attacks early have put him in a fruitless position late. And it really is showing as we will come up to the line with Alex Everitt and have ourselves just 3 laps left here at this stage. If there was to be a caution now, the race would be called as is. And it has been a quiet race in many respects. The battle for second and third has dominated the majority of proceedings here, as it still does. That gap now up to almost a second. I think Dave Steadman's tyres have gone at exactly the wrong time here at this race, and he knows that there will be an opportunity lost, but here's some good points early with the drop rounds. He is very much in the title picture here at this stage. Let's focus on our leader now as we will head to the final lap here of this one. Alex Everitt has been driving a dominant drive, and as he goes through 1 and 2, you can't really argue too much about it. Took the lead after the first caution came into play. He showed everybody what class he was made of. He ran away from every driver, pitted late as well to give him the gap, and he's going to win by almost a lap. He looks dominant again, 2 from 2. Alex Everitt picks it up in the desert. In for second position, it will be Thijs Barendregt. It will be Dave Steadman, the last finisher on the lead lap. He will be on the podium then. Really a quiet run, a quiet race here today. Barendregt getting across in second, and Steadman fading dramatically towards the end into third position after those early attacks on the tyre. It will be 4th for Fran Herrera, 5th for Andy Scott, and they split each other by a lap all the way down. Alexander Roggenbuck, Shane Bliss, Jürgen Mansby Pedersen, and then Ollie Peters after the spin early on. He has been in a bit of trouble, and you're going to see the results there in full view on screen. Alex Everitt making it 2 from 2. The 1 lap gaps that you see going through. Thijs Barendregt in second. Dave Steadman in third position overall. Really a truly dominant performance, and one that you can't really argue too much against here in this Crest Autosport IndyCar iRacing series. Fixed oval, of course, for the course of the season. And next week is going to be no exception on that, as we'll be heading over to Auto Club on the 29th. And that'll be definitely a place that we'll be wanting to check out in the not too distant future. We are going to get a little bit of a conversation going in with Alex Everitt, who drove a dominant performance today. Alex, life was made a little bit easy for you there in the early goings, because your good teammate Ollie Peters put it in the wall from the end of lap 1, and from there, nobody really challenged you.
Yeah, if every race could be like that, I'd be fairly happy. But it's just one of those days where it just hooked up really nice today. I've always been a pretty big fan of Phoenix Legacy, and on that, everything just gelled well together. It was a shame about Ollie on the first lap, because I had one eye on his times, just monitoring how he would get on during the race, and one eye on the road, obviously. And Ollie had real good pace tonight, so it is a real shame what happened to him on lap 1. But look out for him in future races, that's for certain.
Well, a lookout is definitely going to be needed, but for you, a win by 16 seconds, chose to take that pit stop quite late. Do you think that the hot conditions and the way that the tyres fell away here today at Phoenix really set up for a race that was going to be all about tyre management?
Yeah, it was extremely tricky. It reminds me of the old Kia Optima days when they used to whack the temperature up. Yeah, had a huge impact. Literally within after 10 laps, you could feel it. The car was getting heavy, and towards the end of the stint, around about 50, 60 laps in, we were needing third gear for all the corners rather than just turns 1 and 2. So it had a huge impact today. I think with more cautions, it would have been a much more different race in terms of strategy. I think we had seen people try and even 3 stops if we had cautions, but because the race was just green all the way through, we just had to keep going.
Auto Club next week. It's going to be a much more different affair. It's going to be more about how much you can overtake and stay in the draft than this more technical oval. How do you feel Auto Club's going to be as a different style of challenge?
Yeah, high-speed oval again, multiple grooves, quite a bumpy track, so it's going to be quite the challenge for us. Auto Club's not one of my favourite ovals, so I'm a little bit apprehensive going into next week, but 2 wins on the board makes me feel a little bit easier about it. I think we're going to see some great side-by-side action all the way through next week, so definitely one to keep your eye on.
Certainly will do. Alex Everitt there taking the victory overall. Ollie Peters wants to come in for a chat as well. We may as well. Ollie, what happened at the end of lap 1? Because you had an amazing qualifying, but it seemed like the car just decided no, didn't want to stay straight.
Pretty much, yeah. I couldn't put it in better words myself. Just came out of the last corner and it was just wanted to go to the wall. So that was good. Yeah. Less than ideal.
Less than ideal, especially running around at the back of the field, trying to hope that cars would come back to you. How hopeful were you that there were going to be some other issues out there on track for drivers so that you could maybe pick up a couple more points than you did today?
I mean, I'd never wish bad on anyone, but it would have been nice for some other people to have a little bit of misfortune. Maybe give me a chance to get back up there. But, you know, I was pretty quick, I think. So I'll just have to try and do this again next week, but not crash this time.
Well, Auto Club next week, it's going to be a lot more different. It's going to be maybe a lot more conducive to overtaking. Do you feel like that maybe that's going to be a place where you can target maybe being a bit more aggressive, going out there, finding that opportunity to, you know, just settle in, get a rhythm going in this season?
Yes, definitely. Anywhere where it's easier to overtake would be great, because I mean, here at Phoenix, it's a job to get past people with the dirty air. It's just difficult. Yeah.
Can be very difficult, and we definitely saw that today. Ollie Peters there joining us and having a pretty miserable time of things. The only driver to cause a caution today in the 1-2-1, down 5 laps in 9th position. But that's going to bring things to an end today here with Crest Autosport. Massive thanks, of course, to the likes of Track Racer and, of course, to Apex Tracks as well for all of the wonderful work that they have been doing with us here at Crest Autosport. From William Foyle on the cameras, myself, Jake Sperry, it's been a pleasure to bring you all of this. Alex Everitt in total command, dominated proceedings, got the result that was wanted, and nobody could walk back. 2 from 2. He is the yardstick. Got to try and go past him. Auto Club next week. We'll see you there.
The GP Box is an online marketplace for motorsports merchandise and memorabilia. Browse for a whole range of motorsports products in all forms of motorsport. Take Formula 1 for example. There is a whole section dedicated to Formula 1 products from your favourite drivers, cars, teams or tracks from all eras of Formula 1. There are more series available, including WRC if you are a rally fan. You can even search for your favourite form of motorsport to see what products they have in your favourite forms of motorsport. Or, if yourself are a retailer in motorsport, you could set up your own shop within the GP Box to open up your products to a much bigger motorsport audience. Find out more at thegpbox.com.